Good morning.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Graham. Good morning, everyone. I,
Morning,
I
Wael.
find, good morning. I find it beautiful to start the day with, with something new, totally new, and to have an experiment is reviving your energy. Actually, I'm feeling to this morning. Um, Much different than the other mornings where I woke up and turn on my PC and don't know what to do. So I'm glad we did it and we start this conversation.
Yeah, I'm very glad as well. I think you're right. I think when you get up in the morning with a sense of purpose to have a
Mm.
conversation with somebody, and you know it's going to happen every day. So we're going to talk every day this week and just see what happens. I'll interview Wael 15 minutes, and then we swap around, and then we see what comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we both just been chatting off stage before we came on about sleep. It's such a simple, basic thing, but just to sleep well. So Wael doesn't snore, so that's what we know. I might do, probably sometimes I do. Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah. What was that? Wael did the store?
Snore.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. This is good to know for all my friends.
Sorry.
But if you are
Oh,
snoring,
the whole world knows. Actually, I apologize. I've just shared a secret to the whole world. But actually, people don't mind if you don't snore. I mean, I think it's not too bad to say that Wael doesn't snore.
yeah. Okay.
Of
So
course,
this
we
was.
can't prove that. So how about I interview you first, Wael?
Yeah, this would be, I agree. Go ahead.
Okay. Just to give some background, I forget how I met Wael earlier this year. I forget who introduced us or how we connected. Do you remember?
Yeah, I saw you. You had a very cool appearance on the group Global Collaboration,
Okay.
and I was commenting on your video with a message, with a video message, and then we get connected. We we never had any conversation before. Just that kind of, you was pushing or asking people to articulate themselves, and I feel that was speaking with me, so I liked you. I mean, the fact you was doing, so we get friends through that occasion.
So I think that's for me. I think maybe the common thread of this, and I'd like to talk to you about what your previous video, because I thought your previous video, the 2-minute one, was fantastic. One of the main reasons for that is I think that you were really authentic in that the way you spoke. There was clearly a lot of emotion in you, a lot of passion, and you were talking about the silent majority. So there are many people in our world who do not have, well, first of all, we don't have the chance to speak. Secondly, they're afraid of speaking in case something happens to them. And thirdly, no one's ever asked them their opinion. No one's ever asked them, what do you think? And listened to them and done something. So a lot of people just feel ignored and just say, what's the point of saying anything? So maybe can you share a bit about your where that came from? Because you were saying that you know many people who are afraid of speaking out. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, it came from the fact that I am Palestinian, actually. You know, maybe just 1 minute. I was born in Jenin, West Bank of Palestine, and when I was young, I came through the first Intifada. So the first Intifada was where people started rebelling against the occupation. I was a teenager at that time, and many friends of I mean, many friends of me and young people in the town were shot deadly, or I mean, and I lost some good friends and friends from the school. So this was for men in my generation. This was kind of shock. I mean, that there is we weren't grow up with hate. That there is some enemy is there. You have to hate him. So when the first Intifada came and this violence started, and so I couldn't allocate myself within this situation because I couldn't know what to do. So my intention was to leave and to have a good education so that I can serve my country and my people with my education. So I left to Germany, and I finished my school in Germany year 2000, and then the second Intifada started. I was very active Palestinian. I tried to network Palestinians to that I create kind of collaboration between Palestinian in Europe, in Germany, around the world, and then I started to discover that actually the issue is not about Palestine; it's about a world who is creating all of this issue. So we need a systemic change, and the fact where I came to is because I am Palestinian, like millions of Palestinians who are only dreaming about something, about their homeland. They are imagining their homeland. They have this connecting to a homeland, but they are not able to become. They are not able to get out of their imagination because there is an incubation. There is no state. There is no real leadership, where this leadership is absorbing the energy of people and transform this energy in something that helps the people. So when I figured out that our issue is not with Israel, is with a system that has created Israel and many wrong places around the world, then I have started this compassion to the world, that our problems as a human are the same. I mean, it's not only, I mean, that we are very similar as a human, and our issues are the same. And this compassion journey moved me in a spiritual journey. So I started to ask who I am and why we are doing, and why we are doing what we are doing, and then I was then have started to search for alternative and so on. Maybe you know a little bit about this part, but to feel traumatized as Palestinian is a reflection of a trauma in the whole world. And when you have this compassion, okay, then you are part of the whole. You know how the taste of the pain in many places around the world. And so that when I speak in authenticity as a Palestinian, I really sometimes I feel that I speak for, for the humanity, because Palestine is about new humanity where everyone is living in peace together.
Do you then, because do you identify as a Palestinian? I mean, I know that, you know, I think we've had a conversation in the past. I mean, a lot of people, you know, it's Palestinian, therefore, if you're not Palestinian, as soon as people hear the word Palestinian, there's a sort of response. You're a human first. You're a human first. Yes, you happen to be born there. You don't have any problem with Israeli, that word. You know, that's another human being, and it's just that's what's happened through the systemic change. So did you find it easy when you were in Palestine to find friends, peers, colleagues who thought like you?
It was not easy to find Palestinians who have this shift. I really worked hard with myself to understand more, to understand the world problem. and not to stay on the surface, because most of the people are on the surface and they are managing the crisis in many ways. They are mentally, they don't want to give up their way of thinking and their old teachings. The first thing I did when I went out of Germany, I decided to go through a life exploration, and so I was dropping my old teachings, so that I can see. If you have something, a box in your mind, then you cannot see, you cannot. And when I returned back from Germany 10 years ago, I spent 17 years in Germany. I returned back to Palestine, and that was the longest time I stayed at once in Palestine. Otherwise, I was traveling between Germany and Palestine 1 or 2 a year. And in these 10 years, I felt like, the black sheep, because also people don't want to hear things that is more willing to move them from their comfort zone and come in a brave zone for many reasons. First, we Palestinians, I write an article, the Palestinian is a state. Because we are such a dreamer, because we have, every Palestinian has his political mind and a castle, a castle of thought. So it's hard to break through. It is also something, it is an energy has been accumulated within ancestors and generations. These Palestinian people didn't, one time in history, we never had a chance of liberation. I mean, every nation has this kind of collective fight and got his liberation for liberty for once and feel proud about that. We never had, but we are one of the, maybe we are the oldest people on Asian people on the world. But in Palestine, 12,000 years ago, we brought agriculture to the world. So I imagine that this kind of place where a lot of invaders came and these people stayed in the land, stayed as peasants, as simple as they are, all kind of different occupier came and they become part of this occupations, and it is a long history of settlement and resilience. Yes, you need only to see some old olive trees in Palestine, and you see serious people has been there and they are still there. And this kind of people, then we after the colonial time in the past century, we started our struggle with identity, and there's nations and countries around the world, and the Palestinian national movement started. But what didn't started is the nation building movement. We as a nation, we have never had the chance to build ourselves together. Okay, with PLO and the traditional leadership, it was not reflecting the whole Palestinian, and there is a problem of that. But back to your question, which was about, I drift a lot, sorry. The question
the essence of it was about identifying as a Palestinian, and was it easy to find other people?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. This was that the mindset of Palestinian is very difficult, because every Palestinian is an anarchist. I can tell you, and it is hard because you have this imagination world. And the second is fear. I have the chance. I am now in Germany. I can speak with you more easily. But a lot of friends on Facebook, they don't like even to make a like for my comments, because there is a police system. There is some people in power, they don't want to give up. There is a system in power which is uh, or oppressing people, and this kind of oppression, yeah, you can maybe chat with some people, but then to go out and become political, you feel you are threats for someone, and this makes easy to be really radical.
Well, but that's already 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good start. I think if we could talk for hours about this, I'm sure you and I could talk for hours. So this is nice. We can start slowly, but that's a nice. Yeah, yeah.
It's good. I mean, it will think for tomorrow, and then we have like new thoughts. So I hope you know me now a little bit, but just I live in Germany alone. I left my wife and 4 kids in Palestine, and when I couldn't hold it anymore there, so I was mentally broken at the end of last year. Because I wanted something else, and I couldn't live in this wrongness. It was a lot of wrongness. You cannot, if you are straight, you cannot do business in Palestine because everything is corrupted and fucked up. And if you have, yeah, if you are different and all the people are shouting in you, you cannot stay. So this is kind of small of my journey. I will move now. Let's move around.
Okay.
So I know only that we are in similar age, and we are. You are Scottish.
Well, a bit like you. Maybe I don't identify with being Scottish. I am absolutely clear that I was born there. That's true. I don't really know what Scottish means. And if I say I'm Scottish, people think, kilts, golf, whiskey. That's the usual, you know. Yeah. And I've got to say, Mel Gibson, thank you, because anywhere I go in the world, I say, yeah, I was born in Scotland. People say, Braveheart, freedom, you know. So many people connect with the idea of freedom. And I think that this is probably one of the most important discussions in the world today. And I think actually what you've just said, you know, not only about freedom to be able to leave your own country, but freedom of speech, freedom of thought. And as one of my really interesting subjects, you talked about if people have a certain mindset and they think in a certain way, and you know that way of thinking is causing a lot of pain and destruction to a lot of people. What do you do? And I have a nice anecdote for that actually, which I'll share in a minute. But I think also there's another thing is years ago I found out that Glasgow, which is where I was born, has eight twin cities, and Bethlehem is one of them. Which and then Glasgow, Bethlehem having a connection, so Glasgow got a connection to Palestine. And then 2 years ago, I met on a bus going from Glasgow to London. It was a night bus, and there was an empty seat next to me, and on came a man, an Arabic man, holding a bag. Right, he came on holding the bag at night on a bus, and people around looked nervous because, you know, Arab-looking man holding a bag like this, and the seat next to me. I said, "Sit down." He sat down. I said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "I don't know where to put my bag. It's got, you know, my things in it. Do I put it underneath?" I said, "Well, you put it underneath. I don't want to leave it." I said, "I'll put it under the seat." So he put it under the seat, and I am thinking, okay, but he seemed a nice guy. He had a nice feel and energy. I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from Palestine. I'm from Gaza." So that was it. And we spoke from 11 p.m. until 6 a.m. The whole night. He shared the sort of summary of Islam in 3 hours. He shared all these things. I loved the way that he did this and be free. He just said, be free, just from his heart, just be free. Yeah, share, be free. And lovely guy, he works for the Bank of Palestine. And he was going to watch a football match in London because he'd never been to London, and he was so excited, and it was a cup final. And then he said, I want to know you. And it was lovely. So we had Facebook connections. I talked to him. And then I met him and all his Palestinian colleagues in Glasgow, because they were at Glasgow University doing a course. And for many of them, they'd never been outside of Palestine. So to feel that freedom, it was just beautiful. And then I was having a very hard time mentally and traveling. I split up with my partner. I was away from my partner and his son. I was struggling with the frustration of not being able to see the change in the world and find the work that I wanted to do. It was very painful. And I was struggling. And then a lot of people I knew, they weren't really helping me. As you said yesterday, lots of friends out there, but no one really helping me or saying, what can I do? And this guy, AlSaad, when I went to Glasgow, he offered me his bed. He said, you sleep here, I'll sleep on the floor. And I was just like, this is a guy I met on a bus, and he fed me, and he did everything for me. And his other friends, they were just sharing their food and coffee, and it was just beautiful. I was really deeply touched by that level of compassion and friendship, which I didn't receive from people who've known me before. So I found that very moving, and so I still keep in touch with them. And actually, I forget the name of the other young man. He was maybe 25, and he said that he was in Glasgow and he'd never drunk alcohol, and he couldn't understand the culture of this in Glasgow, Scotland, people going to pubs, getting drunk, this whole thing. So he went to a pub. He said it took a lot of courage for him to go to a pub.
Yeah.
And he had a pint, and he said it was horrible. But he said, you know what? After being in Glasgow for 8 months, lovely people, very friendly, but I cannot stand that culture.
Yeah.
You're all in pain. You're running away from it. I'd rather be with my friends and family with the threat of being bombed than in living in the Western society the way it is. And I found that amazing. I thought, wow, that you'd prefer that danger, but you're with your people. So that was fascinating to me as well. And he's a great guy. And,
You said something when I asked you are Scottish, and then you said something, and really this is important. I get the idea. When we say from where we are, if I say I'm Palestinian, then people get the image about Palestinian, something about Palestinian, and this image is connecting them with Palestine, but is not connecting with each other as a human. And this is really an issue when we identify people from where they are, and we don't get to that human in front of me, Graham, and to know him as a Graham. But our national identity is part of our identity, but it should not block us from knowing each other really.
Yeah, and it's also that, and that's very hard to do. Not only that, but with the color of your skin, with your gender, with if I see a teenager, it's very difficult when you're surrounded by images in the media. Like if you walk into London and you see like 10 young men, black skin, hoodies together, they could just be having a laugh and talking, but there's that instant, oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah,
because that's how its majority is portrayed. So we need massively alternative images. The same with women. I mean, I think it's very different. I once did a storytelling course, and there were 19 women and me and Sebastian. And after a while, I didn't think of them as women. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a man, you're a woman. It was quite quick, but it was initially, wow, I'm the only guy amongst all these women. But I realized, no, actually, we're all the same.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's the same with many things. Human beings everywhere always want the same things. We like to enjoy ourselves. We like to celebrate in our own ways. We like, if you're an adult, you like having sex. It's not as if it's we like doing all these things. So it's this idea that you're from Saudi Arabia, therefore you don't like these things. And so many prejudices that are programmed in. And it's only going to come about by having these kind of conversations and realizing, well, actually,
let's dig in another part, identity. I would love. I mean, this is one of my topics I would like to talk about. That we have really having this spiritual nearness. But in the first episode, I would like to know more who's Graham and a little bit about your life story, just and what you have been doing in your life the past years.
Okay, so by our clock, I've got 3.5 minutes to tell my life story.
Yeah. Do it fast.
Well, I'd say that that's a good challenge. I'd say now I live my life like an adventure game. And that began in 2006 when an idea came to me. The whole thing, how that happened, the vision, the whole experience of having this powerful experience, which later became the game of now. So the game of now. And that took over my life from 2006 onwards. Before that, in 2005, I'd met my now former mentor, a Scottish man, very, very, I've said Scottish, there you go. He was born in Scotland, like me, in Glasgow, very bright man, polymath, politics, science, spirituality, esoterics, ideas, economics, exceptionally brilliant. And he was one of the 3 men who helped with the devolution of Scotland from the UK. So a very, very senior character. He's been, internationally renowned. He's written books, papers on intelligent economy. So he became my mentor and he said, I'm going to work with you. So for 15 years on and off, we worked together on consciousness and intelligence. Ultimately, all the problems in the world come down to us. There wasn't an economic system before humans appeared. It's not as if it was already here. We arrived and said, all right, we created it. Our ancestors created it. Our ancestors shaped it or whatever. And now we've inherited this stuff. Yeah. You didn't choose to enter the you can't change the Palestinian game. You just arrived, you're a child and you go, what's this?
Yeah,
so for me, I realized very young, I think I was 18 when I woke up. I said, this is a game I don't like. I want to change the rules. How do I do that? So my first thing was to understand. So I went, psychology and philosophy was what I studied from 18 by myself. University didn't work for me. And so I studied, read, and I couldn't find any answers to why the world was the way it was. So I traveled, I met people, and that became just a lifelong educational journey into understanding who am I, what is this all about, how do I change this for the better? And so many, thousands of people have these things. Thousands of people also say, nothing I can do, I just enjoy my life, see you later, I work, I live, I retire, and I die. And there are people who are like, no, that's not good enough. And you can't ignore what's happening. So very early, again, being very empathic and sensitive. Mainly my parents are both very sensitive people. My mother died a few years ago after many years of suffering, and my dad has Alzheimer's and doesn't speak anymore. So he's gone. So my parents, in essence, aren't here anymore. And when I was growing up, they're very sensitive. And so I have, that idea of how can I be happy if other people are in pain and suffering? how can I? Hey, yeah, I'm just ignoring it. It's like if you're living in a small community of 100 people, 5 are having a great time and 95 are in misery. You're not going to, how do you do that? Just ignore this. And that's difficult for most people to actually face the horrible things that happen in this world, the corruption, the violence, the kids disappearing, abuse, all of this. We know that.
Yeah.
And therefore, as freedom fighters, as Renaissance men, as people who want a different world, my main question has been for decades, how do you fund that? Who's going to pay for that? If this was Star Wars, who's paying for the Rebel Alliance? Who's going to fund it? If this was the war in the Second World War, who's going to fund the Renaissance or the resistance? Who's going to support those people to, say, no, this cannot continue? But also to do it not in a sense of fighting this and that. It's about, I think you've said the word, compassion for oneself, compassion for one's mistakes of the past, compassion for even for people like Donald Trump. He's human, first of all. He is a human being. So is anyone who's a rapist, a violent murderer. They were a child at one point.
Yeah,
and it's hard to really see that. That requires a lot of.
Maybe I will reflect and then we continue next time. Yeah, we have similar. I mean, we have similar like this self-growth journey, and there is a reason for anything, Graham.
Sure.
The fact there was no fund for us to finance our rebellion action is very natural, because we would not learn the needed change. It has been called now game B. We are in game B. We don't know exactly how the future we want looks like. If we knew it exactly, we would have it now. So myself, I was maybe you went in philosophy and physiology. I found that inside every one of us there is this infinite kind of science and knowledge, and if we get really deep and busy with each other. So this is something was really, I'm very autodidactic. I never finished the book because when I was reading, there was a huge unfolding coming from my inside, and I have this intuition how things and understanding without reading that. We have this kind of self-intelligence which is connected to the divine, and so I learned a lot from my inner self. So because I was like looking at it, and there's always was this responses. This was my temple for education is a lot of from myself. And then what happens with me when I read the title of a book, it was like an explosion that okay, this all of things I was talking about, but I don't have this kind of language for it. So if you don't mind, we stop at this point.
Yeah, I think we stop here. I've listed a few. Maybe we can share by Telegram now some of the key things that have come up, because I think that you're talking about identity, talking about compassion, teaching yourself, funding freedom, and all. Yeah, there's so many topics. Yeah. And maybe tomorrow morning we just explore more. Who is Wael? Where are you? What have you been doing? Your projects, I think. And also one of my key things is about living away from your kids. Mm-hmm. and you know what that's important to me. I don't know if you're willing to share about that, but for me, it's a very big thing about. I've got one child. Yeah, so I'll stop talking now.
Okay,
Great.
for the people,
Good start.
for people who have been watching, this is a kind of really the occasion. I needed to talk with someone and really and to guide me a little bit with my thoughts. And Graham has this idea of meeting every morning, and I encourage everyone to just connect with the people who are close to them and talk to them and stream that talk so that you are showing yourself to the world. People should start talking and listening and becoming. Thank you very much.
Okay, lovely. See you tomorrow. Hasta mañana.
Hasta mañana.
Bye-bye.